Hello and welcome. My name is Kate Marand. I'm a program manager at the DC Department of Small and Local Business Development. This is our spring webinar series as part of May 2024, Small Business Month, as some people may call it. We're incredibly excited to be bringing to DC small businesses webinars with many of the fantastic partners that we have across the district, many of the small business service providers who are here who offer free services. And today, I'm really excited to introduce Sean Mitchell, who is at the Washington Area Community Investment Fund, or WACIF. They are a CDFI. I know he's going to tell you a lot more about what CDFIs are if you aren't familiar, but there's a lot to learn about WACIF. And I'm going to turn things over to you, Sean.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. My name is Sean Mitchell. I'm with the Washington Area Community Investment Fund. We've been around for approximately 37 years. We are a local CDFI. We used to operate properly in the nation's capital, the District of Columbia, but as of 2023, we've expanded our services to Montgomery County and Prince George's County, Maryland. And as you can see from my slide, we were founded in 1987. And I'm just going to go through my contact information. My name is Sean Mitchell. This is my email address, smitchell@wacif.org, and that's wacif.org, WACIF.org. My telephone number is 202-964-6026. And also, if there's anyone from Virginia, coincidentally, this is my contact in the state of Virginia. He handles Fairfax, Old Town, Alexandria, in the city of Old Town. Okay, now let's just get started. Our mission here at WACIF when we were founded back in 1997 was simply put, promoting equity and economic opportunity in underserved neighborhoods in the Washington, D.C. region. And we've been doing that since 1997. Coincidentally, CDFIs were enacted by the Clinton administration in 1994, in which and that was to address disparaging wealth gaps in the underserved communities across the country. Some of our key points are social capital, which is definitely galvanizing people in these underserved communities to come together with capital in order to promote their business concepts and ideas. The knowledge capital is the training and the education in which we provide, because we believe that knowledge is truly power, because when you know differently, you act differently. That's correct. And then, of course, the financial capital, and that speaks without any explanation. We have three strategic pillars here at the Washington Area Community Investment Fund. We have the inclusive entrepreneurship, which we provide. Entrepreneurship is definitely the key to success and wealth in a capitalistic society, which we all know. And the community wealth building, obviously, if people are better off, their communities are going to do better, and we firmly believe that. And then, last but not least, the equitable economic development side of the business as well, too. Those are our three strategic pillars here at WACIF. We have a lot of partners that we partner with, including DSLBD, of course, DC Events, Wells Fargo, Provident Bank, Bank of America, of course, and many, many others. Particularly a lot of financial institutions tend, to bank with CDFIs because we're able to do a lot of things that they are not able to do. So in other words, we're able to do a lot of things that they are not able to do. A lot of times, and I'll just stop here for a moment, banks and other financial institutions who are regulated by, FDIC or the OCC, they're tasked with doing work in the communities in which they serve. And obviously, as a lot of you know, that's governed through CRA, the Community Reinvestment Act. But unfortunately, they are not able to lend all the times in some of those communities because there is a little bit of a difference in terms of credit quality or other things that they might experience. So in an effort to continue to reach those communities, they reach them through CDFIs. We are not a depository institution. We're not regulated by the FDIC. We're not checked yearly by the OCC or any of those things. We're a nonprofit entity that executes lending in specific geographic locations, in which I'll touch on earlier. And I just wanted to stop there and talk about that because that's what distinguishes us from a bank. WACIF partners with these banks. We are not in competition with these banks, and they actively send us referrals every day when they decline one of their clients, which is a good thing. And I'll move on. Our impact. WACIF has provided over 22,000 full and part-time jobs in the District of Columbia or in the DMV, specifically based on some of our lending activities. And that's since our inception. And the hours of counseling that we've provided are well over 6.9 or 7,000 hours of counseling to small business entrepreneurs in underserved communities within the set geographic location or territory which we do business, or our BTA or basic transaction area. We have flexible financing. We've lent out well over $45.7 million in financing. Okay, and most of the businesses that we lend to just happen to be women-owned minority businesses. And that's pretty much a quick nutshell of us in regards to that's concerned. We have various different cohorts in which we use to deploy our message or to reach more people. Sometimes those settings are more intimate than others. If you were to encounter me, you would probably fill out an intake form on a website. You'd be transferred over to either myself or my colleague in Virginia, and we would have a counseling session with you specifically about your business aspirations or what your needs might be for your business. At that point in time, we typically will make a referral to one of our cohorts, which you see in front of us. We have the Enterprising Women of Color. That's also known as EWOC, the Enterprising Women of Color. We have a huge event coming up in June, in which we have people coming from all over the region to see the guest speakers and to get the information for women entrepreneurs. And that's open to everyone. And you can find more about that conference on our website. We also have the Ascend Capital Accelerator, which is one of two, believe it or not. We have the Ascend Her Capital Accelerator, which is specifically, for women. And then you have the Ascend Capital Accelerator, which is for, every business owner in general. Recently, I had the privilege of attending the graduation in Virginia of the most recent cohort that came through, and it was well attended and well received. In these cohorts, you're going to basically learn basic presentational skills, how to apply for RFPs, how to keep your books in order, financial accounting, things of that nature. But it's more so of an accelerated, jumpstart program, if you will. And it also gives you an opportunity to mingle with other like-minded individuals who are also, along the path of entrepreneurship, just like yourself. There is also a very rigorous interview process for this particular cohort, the Ascend Capital Accelerator. Unlike EWOC is welcome, everyone's welcome, to that particular cohort. But with this cohort, we have interviews that take place probably in Q1 of every year, and then we select only 15 candidates. This year, I probably did about 40 interviews. Along with the executive director of the Ascend Capital Accelerator, which is Rasul Shair, and some other colleagues here at WACIF. And it is a very competitive process. There were a lot of talented entrepreneurs like yourselves there who competed, and all were very pleased, from what I can tell, at the graduation that occurred just last week. We also have the Anacostia Arts Center there on Marionberry Drive, or what was known as Good Hope Road, right there near the Big Chair in Southeast Washington, D.C. The Anacostia Arts Center, as some of you may already know, is a community hub where we have different hosting of events, venues, things of that nature. We also have what's inclusive or inside of the Anacostia Arts Center. We have the Hive. The Hive is a business incubator, which is designed to create a safe place for businesses to rent at the lowest rates in the region. I mean, the lowest rates in the region. So if you're looking for a good incubator or a DC address, a lot of businesses right now use the Hive within that market, or those that are trying to get into this market. They will utilize the Hive, in order to have a business address to receive mail, things of that nature. We even have conference room and meeting rooms there for those particular entrepreneurs. Where our rates are obviously a lot cheaper because we are a nonprofit CDFI. And then, of course, getting back to the Anacostia Art Center, we have different artists from the area whose art is featured in the Anacostia Art Center. And if you go to the Anacostia Art Center's website, you will see different venues and the calendar of events that are designed specifically to uplift the community and also feature talent specifically from the community there at the Anacostia Art Center. Next slide. Now, this is the part that everybody came for. Or maybe it isn't, who knows? But these are the various different loan products that we offer. I will say that our catalog of loan products is not a very robust one. We have two products, and those loan products are the term loan and the line of credit. The reason why we chose these products because the term loan covers, business capitalization needs as well as build out, but the line of credit, more importantly, addresses the need for lines of credit to government contractors in the DMV. There are probably more contractors in the DMV than anywhere in the country, for good reason. There's a lot of federal dollars that are here, and a lot of those contractors need lines of credit. Our term loan, you'll find, is very favorable to businesses because we've extended the term to 72 months as a possible amortization schedule, which then lessens the payment and thus frees up the capital to the business so that you can do things like meet payroll or have capital, because cash is king. The interest rates range anywhere from 7.75% up to 13%, which is fairly priced considering the rate environment that we're in now. There is a $150 non-refundable application fee that is not charged to you unless we know that we can lend to you. So we do not charge any type of upfront fees. We don't want to take anything from you unless we know for sure that we actually can be of some service and be helpful to you and your business or your family. At that time, we will charge you a 3% commitment fee if the loan funds, if it funds, and that will be due at closing, okay? There's no prepayment penalty. That's right. This is not the type of loan where we're trying to, I guess, keep you on the books or maybe charge you a fee if you don't stay with us for a long period of time. A lot of institutions will issue you a prepayment penalty. Typically, it's described as a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, meaning that in the first year, it's 5-year penalty. The second year is 4-year penalty. Third year, 3% penalty, and so on and so forth. And that goes, it descends as time goes on. But at WACIF, we're going to charge you that one-time fee up front of the 3% and the $150 non-refundable application fee. And that's going to be it with no prepayment penalties. And that's very critical because almost pretty much most, I say community banks within the area, that is a part of their loan covenants where you do have something to that effect in place. No minimum credit score. Boy, I love covering this part because a lot of times I think people think, okay, he misspoke. There's no way that they don't have a minimum credit score. Well, it's true. I didn't believe it at first either, but apparently it's true because I've seen some loans that I know based on my background, which is, commercial finance and banking, which spans well over 2 decades. There is no credit threshold here at WACIF. But I will say this, when the scores fall below a certain threshold, and that score is 600, okay, I will come in, or my colleague in Virginia will come in, we'll find out why, we'll order your credit report, we'll submit an explanation as to what's going on, and then we'll move forward upon approval from the lending department. So I want to provide some clarity there. Now, the other side of that, I had a client just last week, 560 credit score. Approved. Yeah, that's right. No minimum credit score is required. which was a little bit shocking to me, but we did the loan. And the reason for that in this case is that the other cards were maxed out and were utilized for business purposes because why? They couldn't find much needed capital to grow their business, because obviously they're in the underserved community, and they couldn't find a larger commercial bank that would provide those financing for them. So we will provide financing for you here at WACIF, but we do not take deposits. We do require a personal guarantee, okay, just like any loan that you will receive from a banking institution. That will show up on your credit, okay? Unlike at a banking institution, it might not show up on your credit. Well, a WACIF loan will show up on your credit, okay? We will do equipment if you own trucks. Maybe you have dump trucks. Maybe you have heavy equipment, moving vehicles, things of that nature. Maybe you need to purchase inventory, or perhaps maybe you just need working capital. A WACIF line of credit is definitely the way to go. I recently had the privilege of funding a deal to a steamroller company. They actually make roads, and apparently someone had sabotaged some of their equipment, and the equipment was old, and so they decided it would be cheaper just to replace it. And that's what we did. We were able to fund them, and I'm very proud to say that also was a minority-owned business, believe it or not, and women-owned. So kudos. For the line of credit products, let's talk about those. Okay, now those go from 10 to 250,000, just like the term loan, but they work a little bit differently. Now, a lot of you that are listening to this call today, and you can hear me in your voice speaking to you now, they will have what's called an evergreen line. That is a line of credit that you can pretty much use for whatever you want. But you have to be careful with those type of lines of credit because there is a covenant on most of those loans that says you have to clean it up for a 30-day period within a calendar year. Now, if you don't clean it up and you're just continuing to revolve a balance and making the minimum payment, they can accelerate that note. And I did have that happen to a client. And of course, I warned him, and of course, he did not listen, unfortunately, in this case. And I had to come in and give him a term loan to pay it off and stop the payback of $250,000 in just 24 months. But he's in a better place now, so he's happy. But this line of credit is a term of basically just 12 months. That's what we're basing our debt service coverage on in terms of whether you can pay it back. Our debt service coverage, if you're wondering, and you've heard, in most banks, it's probably like a 1.25 or higher. At WACIF, it's 1.20. So 1.20 is one of the lowest debt service coverage ratios for lines of credit within the market. The $150 non-refundable application fee is still applicable. Okay, the 3% commitment fee that I spoke about on the loan product to your left is still applicable. And of course, yes, there's no prepayment penalty. We remain firm in our belief that if you can pay us back sooner than later, that's a good thing. And guess what? You shouldn't be penalized for it, at least not lend access to capital the WACIF way. And again, there's no minimum credit score. There is mentioned again the collateral requirements, and that's going to be a security interest in your business assets and your personal guarantee. But in the line of credit product, I must say that the accounts receivable aging report, or your AR, or money that are owed to you, that is considered an asset for us. We consider that an asset, and we'll lend up to 80% of those AR receivables that run 30, 60, and 90 days. And the way that typically works is that lenders will take the average number there, and whatever that 30, 60, and 90-day AR is, and then there it is, that's your line amount. Those monies will be automatically deducted from your checking account as the money comes in, and then the line will automatically pay itself down because we're assuming that you've borrowed this for the purposes of a line, and we're going to draw down on it, let's say about 80% of each deposit until it's paid back. So it's an aggressive line, but it will not get you in trouble, and it's very specific, unlike an evergreen line of credit. Next slide. Okay, here's a good part right here. And I'll spend a little time here because the geographical locations are really out of my control. And but I do have other other CDFIs and other markets that can help you. So even if you don't see your region listed here, then it's okay. Set an appointment anyway. And I have other like-minded lenders who are non-for-profit CDFIs that I've met at various conferences, and I've built up a help database so that if I'm unable to help you, I still have someone that I can refer you to. That's just always a good additive as a lender to have someone that you can refer people to. We operate in the District of Columbia, okay? Again, Montgomery County and Prince George's counties in the state of Maryland only. So proper DC, okay? Then comes Maryland, Montgomery County and Prince George's County, which are two large, counties within our area here. And then we move on to Virginia, and there are four. We have Arlington County, we have the city of Alexandria, and then we have Fairfax County and the city of Fairfax, and that is Virginia. And then, of course, you would contact Mr. Austin for those type of contacts or businesses that need help within those regions. There's a few requirements that I'll go over. The business owner must be a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident or have a valid work visa, okay? Which brings me to something else. We do not accept the EIN numbers for undocumented business owners. We can only use a social security number. But to my initial point, I do have contacts at other CDFIs that I am more than happy to refer you to. And I've confirmed with their lending department that they, in fact, do accept the EIN number, over the social security number. So I can definitely refer you over because I definitely want to stay true to that help mantra that I firmly believe in. You must have filed federal income taxes. Okay, that's a biggie. That's something I can't beat that one with the IRS. Now, what that doesn't mean is if you haven't filed for 2023, it's no big deal. Most business owners will file an extension and really file in, say, October when the deadline comes. Business must have a business bank account. So essentially, the old ad of you can't keep it under the mattress, you got to keep it in the bank. So you definitely want to have a bank account. And I would recommend having just one bank account or maybe have your business accounts. Maybe there's two or three, but at least have them segregated so that you have business with business and personal with personal. Because one of the formulas that we utilize is very simple. In addition to the debt service coverage ratio, is show me the money. In the sense where we're going to look at your inflows and your outflows, or classic banking terminology, your debits and your credits, and we're going to find out what's left over at the end of each month. And that will be a determining factor as to what we can do and what we cannot do on lending based on the amount that you're requiring and the interest rate that we're charging, et cetera. So the inflows and outflows in your business checking account are very critical. And if you ever do move forward and you do approach us for lending, which I hope you do, and the purpose of this, as well as to let you know who we are, I would make sure if you are commingling, include those statements too, and explain to the loan officer that there's been some commingling, but you don't want to lose credit for capital that you have outside of your business income, and then we can look at that collectively on a one-off basis. You must be in business for at least 1 year. Okay. Well, and there's a good reason for that because you can't file a tax return, which leads to my next point. You must have business revenues of at least $50,000 a year. So we have a few clutch, I'll use that term, phrases here, and that is 1 year in business, $50,000 in revenue. Okay, so 1 year in business and $50,000 in revenue. Those are probably some of the lowest standards for lending within the DMV at any financial institution. And we make it very favorable to the underserved communities. You can't be a nonprofit, okay? So we don't lend to nonprofits. That's in our charter. So my hands are tied there. You cannot be a business with the following list of restricted industries, and obviously you kind of have an idea what those industries are. Okay, let's talk about the workshops and the training. A lot of the workshops and the training that we provide are hosted in many different ways. One way that we host the events and things of that nature are through organically produced Zoom educational seminars. I particularly have one for the state of Maryland, and it's called, and also District of Columbia, and it's called Access the Capital, the WACIF Way. And that is a series that I've been doing since the beginning of this year. We're on series 4 of 12. We're going to have 5 of 12 towards the end of this month, and you can look to Eventbrite to receive more information in that regard as well too. And that's a lovely series. We'll host this event. It lasts about 60 minutes. It's usually from 12 to 1. And it's this next one is coming up the week of the 27th, but it's going to be on a Wednesday. So it's not the 27th, but 28th, 29th, the 29th, but on a Wednesday. And you can look to Eventbrite to get that information. We'll host a business that speaks to our population. A lot of times when I come across clients, I'm dealing with things like, okay, they've had some credit problems, and this is the old adage that keeps rearing its ugly head. So I constantly try to give you tools so that you can do better. By when we are talking about WACIF and access to capital, we also want to talk about how to improve your business credit, how to improve your personal credit. And I'll reach out to a business owner who has a business of such, and they'll speak on that. I'm not quite sure what we're going to cover this on the 29th. It may be something different, but the last session was just that, access to capital the WACIF way, and of course, something to help you or additives to give you answers as to how to improve your credit. The advising and counseling, this takes place after you fill out an intake form. So you would go to our website, www.wacif.org. You would fill out an intake form and express interest in lending. We're going to ask you a series of questions, and you'll be in contact with somebody like myself, Sean Mitchell, or either my counterpart in Virginia, who's Mr. Eric Austin. And then you'll go through what we call technical assistance. At that point, we would route you to whatever your needs might be. It might be back to DSLBD. It could be to the Small Business Resource Center. It could be to the SBDC at Howard University or the one at Maryland University. It really depends on where you're at. So we try to have answers, and we try to have a one-stop shop so that we can partner with other like-minded organizations within our ecos in order to serve and do the better good of the community. And that's the advice and counseling aspect of what we do. Next slide. Okay, the partnerships and referrals. How can we partner and why should we partner? Funding for the customer, okay, is critical. First and foremost, a referral partner with WACIF provides another funding option for small businesses that aren't plentifully ready or traditional financing. That's our mission. That's consistent with what I was saying earlier. Whereas if I cannot provide the financing, then I'm going to try to identify another organization that can provide financing, which is non-predatory. That's critical because we know that the predatory lenders have more money than we do. We're nonprofit employees taking every opportunity we can to try to put the information out there so you can have it and you know exactly what it is that we provide. The customer retention. WACIF offers strictly business term notes, no deposits, as I mentioned earlier, no wealth management, no credit cards. You get the point. That means the relationship stays with the bank. You get to say yes instead of no. Okay, essentially. And this is basically the pitch that we talk to our bankers. I was recently out at one of the larger banks in the area and had the opportunity to speak to the entire leadership team. They were very receptive, and they've been looking for answers. And definitely WACIF is that answer when it comes to alternative lending at this particular institution. Future pipeline. WACIF is committed to tracking where referrals come from and monitoring the progress of the business. When they're ready, we send them back to you to the lending to handle their lending needs as a financial institution. Partnership lending, WACIF can take a subordinate position on collateral like real estate, okay, to fund the gap if that is your shortfall in the lending game. Safe alternative, our rates, they start at 7.75, they go up to about 13, 14%. We partner and we're not competition, great partnership with banks. If you're using a bank that is not referring, you can refer them to WACIF. And we will not try to poach their clients. We just simply want to fill the financial gap so that you can stay where you're at. You're not out looking and shopping at another bank. You have the money you need. We're going to deposit it in your checking account. And when you heal or you become in a stronger financial position, you can then go back to your banker if you choose to do so. Next slide. Okay, again, this is my partner in the Virginia market. And you can get his information if you're a Virginia business that happens to be watching this presentation and can hear the sound of my voice. His name is Eric Austin. He is for the Virginia referrals only. His number is 202-505-5877. His email is eaustin@wacif.org. And then, of course, me. My name is Sean Mitchell. I'm your presenter today. And you have a QR code for him, and you have a QR code for me. My QR code is in front of you now. I'm a small business relationship manager. My contact number is 202-964-5875, and I can be emailed at smitchell@wacif.org. That's smitchell@wacif.org. And then moving through the slide deck. And this just briefly who we are today. We have a vision, an equitable and just society where communities can prosper and people can thrive through entrepreneurship, okay? And then also our mission is to increase equity and economic opportunity in underserved communities in the Washington, D.C. area by investing knowledge, social and financial capital in low and moderate income entrepreneurs. Our values, equity and inclusion, stewardship and accountability, okay? And that concludes my presentation. I am ready for question and answers. If there's any questions, please feel free to present them at this time.
Sean, thank you so much for that presentation, walking through history of what CDFIs are, some of the many services that are at WACIF, and then specifically the loan and line of credit products. If folks are listening in, if you are on the line today, we have been taking questions out of the chat that I'll start walking through with Sean with a few more questions. If you are on the line by phone, when we get through a few of these questions, I'll actually come to you as well to ask if you would like to unmute. But Sean, one thing I want to maybe like take a step back as we get into some of these questions. And thinking about some of the additional programs that you have at WACIF. If someone was listening to the presentation specifically on term loan and line of credit, and if some of this was fairly new and they weren't sure what all of the different terms and pieces meant, or if it was intimidating, what would be your recommended course of action for folks to think about as they're starting to think about future lending, but what they might be doing now if lending is not a right now thing?
Well, if lending is not a right now thing, and you're saying if they're not in need of lending at this moment in time?
You can take this question in different ways. They may not be in need of lending. They may be in a space where they aren't sure if they want to pursue lending. We've got a lot of questions about grants in the chat that are coming up. But if they're not sure about pursuing lending and they want to learn more, and maybe they have concerns or they're just not sure about it.
Right. I think a lot of times apprehension comes from the unknown. My bit of advice is always to delve in, because during the time in which I was in a production role as a commercial lender or as a business banker, one of the things that I would constantly tell people is the time to look for capital is not when it's a fire drill, okay, or when it's an emergency. You should try to get the capital now when things are in a good and very stable position. If in fact you're a business owner and you wanted to learn more about lending, or maybe, I guess get on your A game, I would recommend one of our cohorts, either the Extend Accelerator or the Ascend Her Accelerator, or even EWAC for that matter, which creates a safe ecos to engage and interact with other business owners. But if you want to learn more about lending, the best thing is to do, like Nike said, is just to do it. That's how we learn, and that's through repetition.
Thank you for that. I think with that, I will just sort of ask the question, since it did come up. Does WACIF offer any grants?
There is some talk about grants out there. Yes, we do offer grants, but it's not the main thing that we do. And there are very specific grants. And when you come into the WACIF wheelhouse, if you will, and you begin to work through the loan process, and we find that you will be a good fit for one of the grants that we're tasked with, blessing small business with or helping them to infuse capital, then we'll recommend you at that time. But it's not as though we have specific grants that we advertise or that we put out there. We pretty much identify individuals who are engaged with WACIF of grant opportunities if they become available and they appear to be a good fit. I hope that answers your question.
Oh, thank you for that. And I think
Mhm.
that may be a good space. And you somewhat answered this when you were talking about lending. But we're often in a conversation with folks about talking about grants being supplemental when they're thinking about access to capital,
Mhm.
rather than pursuing grants as the main capital into the business. I don't know if you have an opinion on that topic or anything that you want to share.
Yes, I do, and thank you for that. The type of supplements that we might provide, as you may have noticed, our rates are a little bit higher than what you will receive at, say, a larger institution. There are some institutions that have given us grants specifically for lowering those rates for certain applicants. Perhaps maybe it's a female, maybe it's a male, maybe it's someone in a geographical location, and that's why we wait to see, who actually comes into our door, because if we find the right client or the right borrower of WACIF, then we can apply the grants accordingly based on their needs or whatever the stipulations are for that particular grant. And that's also known as a restricted grant. When we identify individuals who are a good fit, then we apply those proceeds accordingly.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Someone asked a question. Can WAKIF support them if they are seeking to find a place to open their small business?
Yes, we can. And here's the thing. It really depends on where you're at. If you're a startup business, can WACIF help you? Yes, by referring you to other entities that specifically work with startup entities. And I spoke a little bit on that earlier about knowing who else is within the ecos that we can refer you to. And then in some cases, there's a Maryland grant out there now, in which that's my territory, and of course the District of Columbia as well too, whereby they'll pay your rent for a year. I can't think of the grant specifically or when it ends or when it starts, but that was something that we were promoting last year with different individuals in the state of Maryland. Which is something that is very beneficial if you're trying to open up a brick and mortar and you have your first year taken care of by the state. So in that regard, yes, we'd like to consider ourselves a resource or a one-stop shop if we can, because we have the resources or we have the relationships with these various entities, and or we know about them simply, and we're able to refer you to them. So a big part of the job is just knowledge capital, which was also a part of the presentation. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that. I'm wondering if maybe we can sort of deepen in a little bit for how folks can think about how to not only connect but stay connected with WakeUp over time and over the years. We definitely meet a lot of small businesses, and they'll be looking for one particular thing at that moment, and they will go and ask a lot of people, and they'll be told no because it's not the thing that fits right then. And then they'll say to themselves a few years later, "Oh, well, when I went to that organization, they didn't have what I needed, so they never go back." And so what I'm sort of asking is, if someone, maybe the loan products right now aren't a fit, maybe the programs are or are not, how would you suggest they think about staying connected, staying involved, and coming back and seeing what's new in the future?
Thank you for that question. Yes, one of the ways in which people stay connected, which I've seen myself since the time that I've been here, is coming to the various different events. Recently, we just had what's called the Reconnect. There it is in the wording, in the phrase, staying connected, reconnect. We just, people who come to us and maybe we couldn't help you last year, and I see it all the time where people they get reconnected with WACIF when they're in a better place. Maybe you didn't reach the $50,000 in the first year, but that's before you won that contract, right? And now you're doing 75 and 85 for the year. And so you come back and those businesses are funded. As a matter of fact, when you come into the WACIF wheelhouse and you fill out an intake form, we have that information. And as things become available, various different events and things of that nature, we make sure that we keep you informed. And we invite you out to various events that we host. Perhaps maybe it's something at the Anacostia Art Center, or maybe it's something like what we hosted 3 weeks ago, which is called the Reconnect, or maybe it's the EWOC event that we're having in June. But I would encourage you to fill out an intake form, make sure that we have your information, email address, and telephone number, so that as things come about, you can also receive those marketing emails and things of that nature, so that you can stay connected as well too. And I'll be hosting some events in Maryland in the next several weeks as well. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And if folks, if they have gotten lending somewhere else, whether it's another CFI or a bank or even some predatory lending, can they still come out to events for WACF?
Absolutely. We firmly encourage that. We welcome everyone at WACIF, okay? We welcome everyone because this entrepreneurship journey, you know, it's a lonely one, okay? Let's just be honest. If it was the easiest path, everyone would be doing it, right? But it takes a certain kind of business entrepreneur to pursue that path of loneliness, and we create a place where you can come out, and we welcome everyone to the WACIF family. Be it you visiting the Anacostia Art Center, or maybe we're hosting a specific event, or maybe it's a presentation or something like that on Zoom. But we're always pushing on information to make sure you stay connected when it comes to capital to your business.
Thank you for that. And I know we have some questions teed up just so that everyone knows from the chat, specifically on some of the loan products and requirements. I do want to make sure that we give our call-in users a chance as well. So I'm going to send our call-in users a request to unmute right now. If you don't have any questions as a call-in user, that's no worries. If you do, please feel free to come off of mute and ask your question. Give just a quick moment. Okay, not seeing any questions there. So let's move to some of the questions that did come in specifically on the term loan and on the line of credit. Someone asked that if they are pursuing either of the financing products, how long does it take from start to finish before everything is approved?
Good question. The fastest that I've ever seen a loan done was from an extremely well-prepared client who had a tax preparer. They worked with this particular business, and it was 2 weeks. That's right, 2 weeks. And it happened in December of last year. It's extremely fast. Clients were on top of it. I was on top of it too because I was on a vacation, but I still worked through that because I knew we were approaching the end of the year, and I mean, I wanted to see it happen for the client. So I've seen it happen as fast as 2 weeks. Thank you.
I super appreciate that. And I think that just shows the dedication of our CDFIs, of our partners, of folks like Sean, of trying to support businesses. For other businesses, it could take a lot longer if you're still working on your documents and getting things to them. But I think being able to be in that perspective of when you know your possible lenders, when you are working with them and then working with them, then you have a sense of how long something might take. Sean, somebody asked if they could get your phone number. I know you had a slide that had that. I don't know if you might be able to go back to that slide as we work through a couple more questions.
Yes, I have it shown now.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And then someone asked, I think you had some of the requirements that were up before. And it was requirements and some of the things that you couldn't do. And someone asked if those requirements were standard across the board or if that was only specific to loans.
Well, when they say across the board, uh, I'm trying to understand that. You're talking about at other institutions? Are they speaking specifically at WACIF? And is this slide appropriate to that question?
I will ask that person if they can put some stuff back in the chat or raise their hand. I think they may have meant, but I could be wrong. They may have meant uh, to work with WACF at all.
Yes. Are the things that we require are consistent with GAAP in terms of the accounting? We like to see people working with a tax preparer, and we definitely need file tax returns. We're going to ask you for the basics, like the income statement and balance sheet, okay? something you can get from your tax preparer, and it lets us know where your business is at that point in time. Yes, the things that we all ask for are going to be standard. I think the thing that separates us most from most lenders is the weight that we put on the actual checking account itself, the inflows and outflows, having that cash in the checking account readily available at the end of each month. That is the big differentiator. Some institutions, they might not say that, but it's not a loan amount determinant, if you will. They're pretty much looking at your liquidity based on those P&Ls and those balance sheets and things like of that nature, or the retained net earnings from the prior year. Where we're weighing that checking account to make sure that we have the liquidity to make the minimum payment on the loan. So there's that answer there for you. Thank you for asking that question. That was a good question. All of the questions are good, but
Another question that came in, this person apologized for coming in just a few minutes late, but they asked if there were stipulations on what the funding can be used for if they meet the criteria. For example, real estate development or investments.
yeah, we don't do any real estate development, but we do work with construction companies. But we've tended to shy away from real estate developers.
Thank you for that. I know someone had asked for your number again. We did get that in the chat. If you are watching this later, it is up on the screen. Let's see if we can go back through it. We're close to being done with, I think, all the questions that are here. If we missed your question, please feel free to put that back in. I think the last question is, if someone wanted to just start engaging with WACIF, they are a brand new business, where would you suggest they start?
I would suggest you complete an intake form, go to our website, say that you're interested in, I don't know, whatever you find that's most interesting. For you, it might be lending, or it might be EWOC, Enterprising Women of Color, or it might be one of the other different venues that we have or programs. And that would be the first start, making sure that we have your information, and you like what you're hearing here today. I would definitely go to the website and complete an intake form. I might even ask to schedule an appointment with myself, or if you're geographically situated in the state of Virginia, perhaps Mr. Austin, my colleague in the state of Virginia. And then I would have a one-off just to discuss with me or Eric, what it is that you're trying to accomplish. At that point in time, if I find that maybe one of the startup lenders might be a good person to refer you to, I'll then make that referral to that particular nonprofit, and I'll email the executive director or a loan officer that I'm working with you copy to it, so that you have direct contact or introduction to that specific startup entity, if that's what you're looking for. Thank you for the question.
And then that question that I said before, if I wasn't quite sure if we were getting it right, the person asking the question did ask that they come up with mute and clarify. So I'll do that, and then I'm going to have two last questions for you. But I'm going to go to Anthony. And Anthony, if you want to clarify your question, sorry we didn't get it quite right.
Thanks for this wonderful information. The question that I had was specific to the slide that was after the one you showed when you answered the question. It had listed a set of standards, and I was wondering if those were specific to loans or if it was clear across the board for both loans and lines of credit. So it's the slide directly after. So these, go back one. I'll go to the next slide there. Yep. Yeah. So these requirements,
Okay.
are these standard across the board for both lines of credit and loans, or is it just specific to loans?
Yes, thank you for that question. It's specific to both lines of credit and loans.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
We got a couple more questions that did come in the chat. I am asking for someone to clarify this question. Sean, if you're able to answer the question, otherwise we'll get clarification. Are there any EIN only opportunities to gain capital through this organization? I'm not sure if I know what EIN only means.
Yes, I spoke to that in the presentation.
Mhm.
And this is someone who's inquiring about if you have someone who's undocumented and all they have is an EIN number. Okay. There are organizations in our ecos that we partner with that we can refer you to. So if you want to set up an appointment and you want to remind me of this moment in time when I'm talking about this, I will refer you to my counterpart at another CDFI who does work with people who don't have a social security number or who happen to be using an EIN number because of various reasons. Thank you.
And then another question came in. This was a little bit more general in case you want to share anything about this. Someone asked if there were startup lenders who were working in that less than a year, under $50,000 space. I will say briefly, yes. And DSLBD is excited to happy to connect you. Sean, I'll let you say it in your own words, but I think that you also help refer folks in that space.
Absolutely. That was one of the parts of my presentation. All the time, I find people. Today, I've had 3 people that I met with before this morning, and they all were startups. And I was able to refer them to a startup lender who only does startup lending. Okay. And then I also have another client who does larger startup lending, who is another type of lender, also a CDFI within my ecos, and so they're a CDFI also, but they do startup lending. So if you want to set an appointment or something to that effect, I totally don't mind making those referrals at that point in time. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And this is a quick question, and I'm gonna end with a question on predatory lending. But my question next is actually about DC BizCap. We're gonna have a presentation by the Department of Insurance, Securities, and Banking at the end of the month. But Sean, does WACIF do any work currently with the DC BizCap program?
I believe we do. I'm not totally familiar with it, but I've definitely have seen that where we are doing some work with them.
And just for folks on the line, and I'll just clarify, that program will have a session at the end of the month. And those are federal funds that come through district government to help support your lending and your loans, working with different providers so that those loan dollars can go farther. But we'll have a session on that later. And I appreciate it a lot. I appreciate so much that you've talked about today, Sean. And I wanted to hone in on a comment you mentioned: helping people avoid predatory lending. And it's something that we would like to spend more time helping small businesses understand how to see and spot predatory lending when it might be there, helping them think about why and how to get to the non-predatory spaces. But it's just kind of an open space of what would you share with small businesses about avoiding or getting out of predatory lending if they've gotten into it, because folks sometimes get there as well.
Well, if you're in it and you're trying to get out, don't give up hope. Okay. You gotta keep struggling. You gotta keep coming to seminars like this, trying to find the right information to get out of them. One of the things we do at WACIF is we try to finance them out of that debt. Okay, it's a safe place when you come here and you tell us I've been a victim to a predatory lender. They may not say they're a predatory lender, but if they are, you can feel it. And we refinance a lot of people out of predatory lending type situations where it frees up their capital and puts them in a better place on the other side where they can actually breathe and just basically live again. But you know what, they qualify because once you take all the predatory terms out, they have good cash flow. It's just that they got caught up in a bad situation. It's nobody's fault. It happens, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. But there are other organizations like WACIF out here to counter those efforts from the other side. And we do that by deploying capital to the underserved communities, working with one business entrepreneur at a time. Thank you.
John, thank you so much for all of the time today. I knew you said at the beginning you weren't sure if we'd take the hour, and we definitely did because you had so
Yes, we
much
did.
good things to share, so much information. I know if we had some more time, we could keep asking wonderful questions and getting a lot of information from you. And I want to sort of underscore my thank you to you, not only for today's session, but for all of the work that you do, all of the work that WACIF does. For those of you who are on the line today, or those of you who are watching later, I want to really encourage you to be connecting with our CDFIs, not only lending and finance products, but also all of the other great services and expertise. And when you get a chance to talk to folks like Sean, you're going to start realizing like they've been doing the work, they know a lot of things, and they can just share so much context and information. So always ask those additional questions. You'll get gems just like we did today. So I want to say thank you. If you didn't get a question answered, you had Sean's information from earlier. You can always reach out to us at inno.ed@dc.gov. In the meantime, just thanks everybody, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you, everyone.